Hello students, this is Dr. Mahesh B. Shinde and welcome to the course on communication skills, business communication. In unit number 1, lesson 1, we have seen about importance of communication. We also discussed what is effective communication. We discussed about importance of English language. We discussed origin of the word communication and we discussed some definitions. In this lesson number 2, we are going to see the characteristics and levels of communication. The objectives are study various characteristics, features of communication and understand various levels of communication. So first let us discuss characteristics or features of communication. So like every object, everything has its own characteristics. Communication also has its own characteristics. For example, communication always is a two-way process. It is both the parties are equally involved. You cannot say communication is successful when only speaker is speaking and receivers are not receiving, listeners are not listening. It is not the case. So it is a two-way communication. There should be someone to give, tell, inform. In the same way, there should be someone who would like to know, who would like to learn from the receiver. Second is, it is a dynamic process, that is communication changes from person to person, place to place, time to time and so on. Person to person, the way we communicate with our parents, the way we communicate with our teachers, the way we communicate with our friends and the way we communicate with our relatives. The way every time we communicate, it changes from from person to person, that is with whom we are communicating. From place to place, also our communication style changes from place to place, that is the way we communicate at home is different, the way we communicate at college is different and the way we will communicate maybe in future, definitely that will be different. Even the way we communicate when we are meeting informally and having chit chat in canteen, that is the different place. So there we communicate in different style. From time to time, again just try to recollect the way you were communicating when you were a child, when you were in the 10th standard, when you were in the 12th standard, now the way you are communicating, and in future also after 10 years from now you will definitely change your way of communication. So that is, it changes from time to time. Also, language changes from time to time. Marathi being spoken in the 10th century, 15th century, 20th century and 21st century. In the same way, English being spoken in those centuries and today it is absolutely different. Previously, we were communicating with the help of words more, but today in the digital era, we are communicating with the help of most of the social medias. So, communication is a dynamic process. It changes from person to person, place to place, time to time and so on. Third characteristic is communication is a symbolic process, that is there is no any relation between the word we are saying and the object that word is representing, that is it is completely arbitrary, it is just a combination of symbols. For example, why we call this particular device as a, let us say, TV or mobile or iPad you are watching on now, or a particular object, for example this particular device, it is why we call it as mobile. There is no any relation between the symbol and the object, it is absolutely arbitrary. We are talking in the same style just because our forefathers have done it. The another example is, then if it is so, why it is there, the same object is called by different names in different languages. For example, a three-bladed object is called as fan in English, pankha in Marathi, and in each language it has its own word. So it shows that there is no relation between the word and the object it is representing. It is absolutely a combination of symbols. It is absolutely arbitrary. Next characteristic is very important. Communication is a systematic process. Unless it follows a particular system, it cannot be a communication. It is a systematic arrangement of words, sentences, paragraphs, books and so on. For example, can you tell me which this sentence is? Just pause for some time and try to identify the sentence. You may pause for 1 or 2 seconds, 5 seconds or till you get the answer. Just what is the sentence? Now you must have got it, but I hope you understand. Now it has taken more than usual time to identify the sentence. Why? Because it is not in a systematic arrangement. the system of English language, the spelling, then sentence construction, subject, verb, object, that pattern is not followed. That is why we are finding it very difficult to identify the sentences. So what is the sentence? Just check. This is what I want to prove. Why we can easily read the second part, easily read this particular second one? It is just because we have this systematic process in our mind, and as it is disturbed in the first, we are not able to identify. So it is a systematic process. Then next, it has meanings. No communication is meaningless. Every time, whatever you say, whatever you do, whatever you exhibit, that conveys some meaning. And finally, it can be sometimes intentional, it can be sometimes unintentional. So sometimes we do something which we actually do not want to target anyone, or do not want to show it to someone, but unintentionally that communication takes place depending on the situations and perceptions of the people. Moving ahead, the levels of communication. The levels of communication are nothing but the communication which takes place at different levels. For example, the first is extrapersonal communication, that is communication between human beings and non-human and or non-living things. For example, we do communicate with our pets. Trees have their own communication pattern amongst themselves. We also communicate sometimes with the non-living things like our bike, like our mobile, like our pen, and so on. So that all is called as extrapersonal, that is beyond person communication with non-human or non-living things. Now it is another a matter of another debate or question that whether animals understand our communication or not, and there is research going on whether animals understand our communication or not. We do not want to go in more details into that, but definitely sometimes when we have to receive an important call, and at the same time our battery gets discharged, so we talk to our mobile, just for 1 minute, just for 2 minutes, I have to get one important call, as if the mobile understands our language. Bike, when it is not starting, we talk as if, please start, I have to reach to my home, reach to my office early or in time. So that is talking with the non-living things, which is known as extrapersonal communication. Intrapersonal communication is within self. We talk to ourselves, we meditate, we talk in front of mirror, we write daily diary, we just do think, sit at one place and think. All that is called as the intrapersonal communication, that is within oneself. Then comes interpersonal communication between two or more people, the communication which goes on between one person and there is someone or more than one, that is known as interpersonal. So when you talk with your friends, when you talk with your teachers, when you talk in the class, all that is interpersonal communication. Or when I deliver deliver lecture in the class, that is also a kind of interpersonal communication. Then next levels are transpersonal communication, which occurs within a person's spiritual domain, communication with the Almighty, Supreme Power, prayers, meditation, religious rituals, and all that is nothing but transpersonal, that is even beyond person. We do prayers, we do talk with gods, we do talk with our Almighty, we do do some religious rituals, and through which we try to connect with the God. So that is nothing but transpersonal communication. Then organizational communication, a pattern of communication followed in an organization is called as organizational communication. For example, in an educational institute like KIT, we have different kind of layers, like we have management, then we have director, then we have deans, then we have registrar, then we have HODs, then class teachers and students. So all that pattern which is followed in educational organization is organizational communication. Same you have in, let us say, professional organizations where managing director is there, director is there, managers are there, workers are there. So the pattern followed in the organization is called as organizational communication. And next one is mass or media communication, that is through some type of medium like print media, electronic media, digital media, social networking to a large or target audience. So that is when we would like to communicate with the people at large, we use this mass communication with the help of some media, that can be print media, that can be electronic media, that can be digital media or social networking platforms. So the way we are communicating with, for example, news on the news channel, mass media, your own post on Facebook, Instagram, that is also a mass or media communication. Having understood the features and let us say the levels of communication, here is the reflection spot for you. Just pause the video and identify the level of communication in the given situations. So just you have to identify which level of communication is described here. For example, a parrot responding to your greetings, whether it is extrapersonal, intrapersonal, interpersonal, transpersonal, or mass media, or let us say organizational, you have to identify. Second, writing a personal diary. Third, having a conversation with a friend. Next, a meeting of all the HODs in one organization. And you watching this video on YouTube. So just pause for a while and try to identify the levels of communication. I hope you have come up with your keys. So let us see the first parrot responding to your greetings. It is extra personal because a human being and non-human being is communicating. Writing a diary, that is you are writing to yourself, so it is intrapersonal. Then having a conversation with your friend, it is interpersonal because more than two people are involved. A meeting of all the HODs, it is organizational because it is followed in an organization. It is also interpersonal because all human beings, they are coming together and discussing. And you watching this video on YouTube, it is mass communication, it is media communication, also it is interpersonal communication, because even though we are using this medium, electronic medium, or let us say digital media, still I am communicating with you. That's why it also can be interpersonal communication. But as the help is taken of the medium, that is the social media platform, maybe YouTube, that is why it is a media or mass communication. That's the end of lesson number 2. In lesson 3, we will see the elements, process of communication cycle. Thank you so much.